I am loving Cautious Hero, I have to say. I'm so happy to be able to walk out of episode 2 saying episode 1 wasn't a one-hit wonder, which it easily could have been. It could have been just a one-time funny thing, but no, episode 2, equally funny, and maybe even a little bit more funny depending on perspective. I love this. I love how it leads you on to believe the tropes and the gimmicks of classic isekai hero formula is there, and then Hsieh shuts it down. The balance of a goddess who wants that typical tropey hero who will be, the knight in shining armor, she'll be able to romance him down the line, he'll be the perfect hero, and he always shuts it down. Sometimes he seems like an asshole, sometimes he seems like the best person in the world. I love this show. From having our goddess tell a little girl that she's half right and half wrong when she says, hey, you're a little sick, but you're a good guy, and she'll just say, no, he's just sick, or then you'll just have our man in the middle of a demon just cutting off heads every 10 minutes. He's like, well, time moves slower here, so why don't I just train a little bit more before I go out on my mission? And just the amount of banter, the frenemy dynamic that they have going on is absolutely superb. I love this show. I might even like episode 2 more than the first episode, and the first episode had me hooked, I have to say. I just love the idea that this man is so cautious that even before, he really started to work towards, being someone. The first skill he got was fake out so people couldn't read his abilities, so he's been more powerful all this time. I love it. I actually was a little worried that maybe the whole cautious hero persona would lead to the same type of jokes over and over again, and there definitely is some familiarity with some of the humor in this show, especially seen by him, overly preparing and the goddess getting upset. But the actual idea of how he overprepares or how he does things is actually lending itself to be unique with each circumstance, as seen by the fake out skill in this episode and ultimately how he was actually hiding his true abilities, as he realized, well, if this goddess can read my abilities, the enemies can too, so let me just lock out everyone. And that not only provides for amazing humor with her trying to read his abilities, and just, useless goddess keep getting locked out. It's just amazing, and I love that. I love how this episode, it had so much familiarity with, that badass hero formula, powering up your monster. Oh shit, she's getting more and more intense, and how can our hero do it? And he's like, oh my god, the hero's actually going to, be strong enough to beat it. And then you start thinking, okay, maybe it's going to be a little too typical, a little too tropey, and even after he's all said and done, you see what we all want to see. Well, there's still ashes of the monster. Let me make sure they're fully gone. And just that tropey scene that would have been, the mayor wants to, have dinner with him, everyone's worshiping him. He destroys the town, he looks like a villain. That's what I love about this formula, is that this man is so logical. He literally does have the right mentality for everything of overly preparing. But I just love how tunnel visioned he is, such as him after destroying the entire town would be upset that they didn't give him any money, or when a father and daughter come to reward him, he's unhappy with the reward, not taking into consideration what he just did, because in his mind he made sure the monster was dead, which he might be right, but a little compassion would go a little way there. And that's why this is so funny. And I'm really happy to see that the goddess role is not only providing for just really great humor with the banter back and forth, but it does feel like she kind of does this bridge between the typical tropey. When we go with Hsieh, he's the more just breaking all tropes. So it allows us to be a parody of a lot of isekai hero-like shows, but it also allows for their banter and relationship to actually feel completely unique. Because, she has the hots for him, she wants to smell him, she wants to be basically inside his pants. That's what she wants, but this man is just insulting. He willingly insults or just unwillingly, without realizing it, will just insult you to your face. And I love how, just if he touches her, he'll think, well, maybe I got a disease, so I'll have to wash my hands. He just says the rudest of things, and that's why this show is so hilarious. And it's not even just with what he says, it's his overall actions and the formula to this show. It's only 2 episodes, but if it can continue on this, will easily be my comedy of the season. This shit is funny, and I love it. Last week with the episode 1, there was a lot of loose line work with a lot of the facial animations and things like that, which is what I love for comedy. But when we actually got into the more serious action within this episode, they actually stylized it a lot more crisp and a lot more like what you would typically expect for a high production show with this sort of fantasy setting. So it actually does give me a lot of hope that not only will the comedy have that, superb animation that allows character models to go off model and just have a lot of fun with body language, But it also seems like when we get into the really serious action, when we need to have giant explosions or monsters being crazy, it actually does seem like they're going to go really highly refined, which I think the production to this show, if they can nail what we just saw with episode 1 and episode 2, I think will actually be a top-notch production, not only just with its overall comedy, its character and voice acting, but also its overall visual flair, which is what I'm really crossing my fingers for, because so far, this show is doing everything that I really would want from this. You know, it kind of gives me that same feeling when I first started watching Konosuba, having no knowledge on it. I was like, oh, this is just really funny. If it can continue to nail it, I'm gonna really enjoy this. And that's what I love. I love it when a show can bring up so many familiar ideas, but then just slightly, or sometimes, shoving them out the door and just break them down, and it's absolutely humorous. Because we see 100 of these types of series, you know, over a few years. But when you just have a character shut it down and then one character trying to shove it back in down your throat, being like, you're gonna be tropey and bullshit, and he's just like, no, I'm gonna cut off your head if you keep trying this, that's why a show like this succeeds. And because we get so few that actually try to break the formula, that's why we can have shows that maybe seem familiar, but also feel drastically different. Like if we got 10 Cautious Heroes a year, then of course this may just seem like a series we've already watched 10 times over. But there's so few series actually trying to break the gimmicks and go more parody and just comedic with it, which is kind of weird because isekai is like the hot selling thing you'll always sell, but for whatever reason we get very few, at least in the anime realm, of series like this that just try to have fun and make fun of the thing that got so popular for God knows what reason. That's what I love about this, and I just love the banter, the relationship between these two, if you even want to call it one, because on one hand, we got a goddess who really wants to be in a relationship, and another who's just like, I guess I'm stuck with you, and I guess you're just, medicine is what you are, you're nothing more than that. Like, I just love it. It just makes me laugh thinking about it, and multiple points throughout this episode, once again, like with episode 1, I was laughing out loud, and that's a rare thing for me. Like, I enjoy comedy, I get entertained, I maybe laugh on the inside, but to actually get a chuckle out of me, but when I saw those explosions going off, I was like, this show is fantastic. This obviously won't be a show for everyone just because of the amount of slapstick humor and just overreactions, but I think if anyone enjoyed episode 1, they're probably going to be getting a kick out of episode 2. It just feels like this show, it wants to punch you. It wants to punch you in your funny bone and make sure that funny bone is actually going to make you laugh, not cry when you hit it on the side of a table. This show is just great. I love the reactions. The voice actors are probably my favorite part of this because you got Hsieh, so deadpan, almost monotone, and he almost feels too serious for his own good. And then you got a goddess who's so hyperactive and will try to be that romantic, cliche goddess, and then will just go completely, oh my god, you don't want to get on her bad side. And the balance and contrast between those two actors, not only on a visual level, but also with their overall acting, it just lends itself to make these scenes more funny than they would be with basic bitch acting. I don't believe I mentioned it in episode 1, but I really like the color palette to this show. Especially when you see the difference between the demonic action scenes and just the ridiculous comedy scenes. It's a super bright world. Love the just colors and how they just bring to life comedy and just this overall fantasy world so well. And then how they shift it into the demonic, it's like, holy shit, this actually feels like a normal person, if they were in this part of the world, would be shitting their pants. And just the balance and the shifting, especially when you look at like Hsieh and how like he just doesn't respond. Even when he's running away for his life, he doesn't really change his facial animation. And that's what's so great about it, especially seen by just, you have one character who rarely changes, and then one who just, some of the character models, you don't even know what you're looking at. And just the balance of the two and how the colors just really bring to life either the serious or absolutely gut-punchingly hilarious is something I really appreciate. I definitely think colors can be an underappreciated form of visual storytelling when it comes to a comedy series, especially one like Cautious Hero. But the overall bright and just really muted and demonic colors really bring to life the comedy in the way it is. Because when you see a character like Hsieh and he's just not really responding in the face of such demonic looking colors and character models, that's why a lot of those scenes can be so funny or even badass when he does a really cool move. It just definitely feels like this series knows what it's doing on every front right now. And I really hope it sticks as a landing, because this would be my biggest disappointment if it didn't continue on the comedy path that's seen here. But I think based on like a 12 episode run at the very least, I don't think you could make this grow stale that quickly. I think if anything, episode 2 would have showed us if this was going to be a one-trick pony. But the fact that it has its similarities, but it's also vastly different, it kind of shows us that there's so many ways to make this formula hilarious, but also give us new ideas for this jokes, but also see where the relationship can go. Because, I mean, the man is keeping his little pendant from a little girl who he thinks cursed him, and it's like, oh, that's a little sweet, he actually has a human heart, but then he's like, no, I just want the monsters to come to me. So it's like, there's ways to do some interesting character relationships while keeping it funny all at the same time, but obviously only the future will tell us for sure how it sticks its landing. But right now, I'm just like, give me the next 4 episodes. You know, do an Amazon, drop another 3 episodes on me. I love this show and I keep wanting to see more. This show is great. I really, really enjoy it, and I hope many people enjoy it alongside with me, because I'm definitely going to be reviewing this every single week that it does air. I imagine this will just be a fall anime, not a 2-core, but you know, I think as long as they can keep the humor fresh like what we just saw with the past 2 episodes, the Cautious Hero can actually lend itself to be a lot of jokes, not just the same one time and time again. Obviously, it could grow stale in the future, but as of right now, the future for Cautious Hero is looking rather bright. What did everyone think of episode 2? Let me know your thoughts, favorite comedy moment in this episode down in the comment section below. If you did enjoy, be sure to drop a like, and also hit that subscribe button if you have been new. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.